Hi, my name is Sophia.Benson. I'm in the Rockin' Rangers 4-H Club, and my presentation is called The Basics of Horse Judging. So, what is horse judging? Well, in its essence, it's basically the name. You're judging horses. But how do you do this? It may seem like a simple topic at first glance. However, in reality, there's a lot more going on here than what meets the eye. Today, I'm here to teach you some of the basics and fundamentals of this topic and get you ready to start judging. To start off with, let's split it into two main categories. There's judging a halter class and judging a performance class. When you're judging a halter class, you'll be looking at a class of 4 horses under a given breed and gender type. Then you will be placing them in an order from best to worst based off of their conformation. When you're judging a performance class, you are looking at a class of 4 horses. However, they are in an arena and you are watching either how well the horse performs under saddle or how well the rider does handling the horse. Today, my presentation focuses on how to judge a halter class because this is the more well-known version and it's easier to teach. If we're going to judge a class of horses based off of conformation, we need to know what it is first. This is the direct definition of conformation out of Story's Horse Lover's Encyclopedia, and it is the shape and form of a horse's body compared to an ideal or standard of perfection. So what you will do is you will look at a certain horse, say horse 3, and say we're judging quarter horse stallions. You will look at the horse and then compare them to what the ideal or standard of perfection, so basically what the perfect horse is for that breed, can then compare all of the certain parts of the horse to that ideal or standard. When you're judging a horse's conformation, you are judging them off of 5 aspects: structure, balance, muscling, breed or sex type, and way of going. Structure is not necessarily the structure of the skeleton. It refers to the structure of the legs. You can see with these conformational faults here. Balance is how well the skeleton is balanced together. Everything should flow from one part to another. Muscling is a little obvious. It is how well the horse is muscled. You are looking for muscling in an area right along the neck here, down the shoulder, through the chest and forearm, along the loin and croup, down the stifle, which is the counterpart to the human knee, which is a little odd actually because it's up in the hindquarter, and then down the gaskin, which is in between the hock or tarsus and the stifle. You are then judging them off of their breed or sex type. So in general, horses are judged, when you're in an arena of horse judging, you're typically told what kind of horses you're judging. So for an example, a class of aged quarter horse mares. So you will make sure that the horse refers to the breed type well and also has mare-like features, for example, a feminine head and a well-sprung rib cage to carry a foal. You never want to judge a horse based off of color. Even though there are many different types of breeds out there, as well as different versions of what is ideal or perfect in a horse, there are just some different parts of the horse that are perfect and go for everything. So we're going to start off with some conformational aspects that are good in a horse and work our way down. So let's start with the head and work our way down. The head should have a moderately flat profile. It's fine if there's a slight ditch to it, which is common in Arabian horses called a jibba. However, you don't want it to be Roman-nosed. This is when the forehead, as well as the front of the face, bulges outward, and it creates a rounded profile. The eye should also be bright and intelligent. The top line of the neck here should be twice of the bottom line. It's also easier to see the muscling I was explaining earlier along the neck here. The throat latch, which is the juncture where the head meets the neck, should be clean and tight, and the neck should not tie in too high or too low in the shoulder. However, this may vary with the different breeds. So now let's look at the midsection. You should be able to see 3 equal circles in the shoulder, barrel, and hindquarter. So the diameter of the circle should be from the point of shoulder to the heart girth, which is right here, from the heart girth to the point of hip, and to the point of hip to the point of buttock. So you can see here, I can't really put them on a line because you won't be able to tell, so that is why they're offset. The legs typically refers to structure. So you can see here how if you were to drop a line right down the hind leg, the leg should not be perfectly straight, which is when there's no bend to the hock, called post-legged. However, you don't want the horse's legs to be camped under, also known as sickle hock, when there's too much bend right here. However, you also don't want them to be standing camped out. This also goes the same in the front leg. you don't want them to be standing camped out or camped under. The legs should be able to follow this line right here. Now when we're looking at the overall picture, you should notice that this line does not actually mean the horse's back has to be perfectly straight. The horse's back typically has a slight bend to it. But what this means is that the horse shouldn't be uphill or downhill. If the horse were downhill, it would mean that the hind quarter is a lot higher than the the top of the withers, and that the withers should not. And uphill would be when the withers are higher than the than the top of their hind quarter. Also, you should be able to tell that the angle of the shoulder is the same as the angle of the pastern. A too steep shoulder is going to, instead of giving the horse a nice 45-degree angle, as the shoulder angle steepens, it shortens the neck as well as lengthens the body. If the horse's angle of the shoulder is too shallow, it may make for a smoother ride, however it's going to shorten the back and lengthen the neck, as well as cause some severe joint problems later on in the future. To give you an idea on how horse judging actually works, I've selected a class of Arabian stallions that we are going to practice judging. Arabians are a breed that are easy to describe, and they're also very distinct and easy to define. So we have horse 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now we can look at their conformation. With horse 1, you can see what is better displayed as a Roman nose, as well as you can see he's ewe-necked. U does not mean that he's like the letter U, it means the animal, like EWE or a lamb. He also is severely downhill, as I was explaining earlier. He lacks muscling entirely in his shoulder and is quite offset through his barrel. His legs are not exactly ideal either. Moving on to horse 2, you can see he has fairly good conformation, however it may not be muscling, it may be more of just fat, and he's been very well brushed out. Another thing that I don't like about this horse is how his throat latch is extremely thick. This may not seem like a severe fault, however if you were to collect a horse, meaning you want them to tuck their nose under and round their back out, as they tuck their nose down, it's going to bulge up under their throat and make it harder for them to breathe. This is why you don't want the throat latch to be thick. Their neck should taper into their head. Moving on to horse 3, we can see you can already see that his head is much larger in proportions to his body. Also, he does not display a flat croup, which is considered ideal in Arabian horses. Another thing I noticed with this horse is that he's standing camped under and sickle-hocked in the back. So this is also not a good thing you want in horses. And finally, we have horse 4. When we're going to place this class, I'm actually going to put him on the top because he's actually painting of what the ideal Arabian horse should look like. And you can see why. He has a nice dainty head, however it's not feminine, as well as nice muscling down through his neck and through his shoulder. He also has a good angle to his pastern and shoulders, which is 45 degrees, and he has a flat croup and good muscling, even though it's a little hard to tell since he's a gray horse, and 3 equal circles through his midsection. So this is why I've placed this class, horse 4, 2, 3, and 1. So in conclusion, horse judging may seem like a simple topic at first. However, there's a lot more going on to it than what meets the eye. You are always judging a class of horses based off of a halter class of horses based off of their structure, balance, muscling, breed or sex type, and way of going. You also never want to judge a horse based off of its color. I would like to thank my 4-H group for sitting through my first few attempts at making this presentation, as well as my parents for pointing out what would be better ideas and pointing out the organization. I also want to thank my 4-H leaders for always inspiring me and teaching me more about this, as well as Emma McCready, who really got me into horse judging. And finally, I want to thank you for your attention and Marla Lauder for running the presentations. These were mainly the sources I used while I was working on my presentation. Are there any questions?
So in your opinion, what would be the worst fault a horse could have?
The question was, in my opinion, what is the worst fault a horse can have? It really just depends on what the horse is going to be used for. Conformation is basically what enables a horse to do anything, and there are so many different things you can do with a horse. For example, jumping, barrel racing, equitation, trail riding, companionship. There's actually a lot of things that can go wrong with a horse. For example, if it was a horse that's supposed to be a jumper, If the horse was splay-footed, meaning that its toes are turned out, or pigeon-toed, meaning its toes are turned in, this would probably be one of the worst faults in a jumper, because it would, as the horse lands from the jump, it would be really hard for the horse to land being pigeon-toed or turned in, or splay-footed or turned out.
What is the neck used for mainly?
The question was, what is the neck used for mainly? The main purposes of the neck are to carry the horse's head, as well as to have balance throughout the horse, as well as for use of the esophagus and eating.
Okay, if you had a horse that was post-legged, how would it ride?
The question was, if you had a horse that was post-legged, how would it ride? If you had a horse that was post-legged, it would be extremely hard for the horse to move. The hock is actually the counterpart of the human's ankle, and it's also the most used joint in the horse's body. If the horse was post-legged, meaning it was too straight through the hock, this would make for a very choppy ride.
Very good.